I've been thinking about important things to know before you come. It really important things, or important things to think about when you come to France to live here. Um, that in retrospect, I realise how important they are. And the first one for me is language. And um, when I came, I had schoolgirl French. I think I might have maybe have listened to Michel Thomas during the lead up to us coming, may have looked at some stuff, may have begun to learn French again, but not formally. And my schoolgirl French, I realised on our first or second day was not as good as it was needed to be. And somehow I muddled through, but often found myself completely and utterly out of my depth with something where a conversation starts and you understand the beginning of the conversation, but it very quickly moves to um, out of context, or it moves on to somewhere you didn't know it was going to go, and you cannot know the to and the fro of the conversation. You just can't know how that's going to work out. Um, so you start off with good intentions, and it's like, but somebody comes up with a word that you don't understand, or a phrase that you understand. Don't understand. There's a lot of phrases that people use that are part of my language now, that are part of my understanding, but they weren't taught me at school. Um, and um, I just wasn't taught it at school. And I think the difficulty is that France is massive compared to the UK. France is a very big country, and each area has a very different dialect, sounds very different. Probably what we're taught is formal French, which is probably Parisian French. I don't know, I've not tested that, but I think formal French is probably Parisian French, but they don't speak Parisian French down here where I live. It's a very different dialect, and you don't need to go very far. If I go into the next department, which is like the next county, um, again, it's different. And you have to tune into it. And so it's really important for you to have the best understanding of the language that you can have when you come, so that it gives you a base to deal with the language that's going to come at you. For you to, it takes a while to tune in. And there's things that people say now, stuff that I say, that is normal for me, but it wasn't part of my repertoire when I first came. It's like ce n'est pas grave, and when I say that, I normally take it, or normally say it, because we say it as part of a piss take. It's like ce n'est pas grave, because it's said so often in our art class. Or I say tant pis, or I say I can't think, I can't think. But there's lots of stuff that just is normal, a normal part of my language. Oh, dis donc, normal part of my language that, and actually trying to translate dis donc. Oh, dis donc. It's like there isn't a translation really. It's very difficult to translate it into English, and we've tried. So yeah, but that's after all these years, I've got this sort of repertoire. And my learning style is not reading, and my learning style is not in a classroom. My learning style is in vivo, in life. So my 8 years, 7, 8 years in the art class has really, really lifted my French. It's still crap, but it's really lifted my French being in the art class. And so yeah, if you can just do that one thing before you come, get a good level of French, everything else will be a lot easier. I don't know how we managed. I know that I did paperwork right from the start. Don't ask me how. When I think back 18 years, I don't know how I did it. Mark's French is much better than mine. Um, but actually I'm much quicker now to understand what's being said, or a concept than Mark is. I'm quicker to put things together. I know that my method of translation is, I put the words together and imagine what's missing for me. So I make it up as I go along, and it works. When we first came, we had access to free French classes. I don't know how many we could have had, and I can't remember how long it was before we started, but we travelled to Leblanc and had free French classes. I was in the beginners group, which I was much better than the big beginners group. So that was a bit difficult for me because I was just quite bored covering ground I'd done at school, covering ground I'd obviously done before coming here. But actually, Mark was in the intermediate group, and that was ahead of me and more than I could have coped with. So they were, I sort of fell between the two classes. So I don't remember how long I went for. I probably went for about 6 months before stopping. And I can't remember why we stopped. I think our teacher was stopping. Anyway, most important, language, do what you can. Very, very important. Another thing I did with language is that back then, I'd go off on my own in the car, traveling in to go shopping and things like that. And I'd have the radio on. I'd have commercial radio on, and there'd be lots of ads, a public pub, lots of ads. And the ads are really fast because they've only got a set amount of time to rattle off what they're going to say, and they're really fast. And when I used to go along and make very little sense of it, but it really helped me tune in and really helped me speed up because it's fast. But it isn't any faster than me speaking in English with an English person. Yeah, we sit in art sometimes, and rarely Mark and I will have a brief conversation between each other in English, and we get a couple of people sort of going, and I go, that's the same for us, so it sounds fast when you're trying to understand it. Yeah. The other thing I think is really important is that France, learning French language is all very well, but it becomes very contextual when you're in hospital or at the doctor's or at the dentist or at the notaire or at the gendarmerie or wherever you are, and context is really important. And again, I haven't looked at a phrase book for years, not since I travelled in France when I was younger, but I can't imagine there's much in there about I'm having neighbour problems and how do I deal with it, or this is happening or that's happening at the gendarmerie. You're not going to be taught that. So that's really important. Having a basic language means that you can build a sentence with what you have. So that's my number one thing. My second thing, and this is based on, obviously, I just shared the wall vlog. Don't buy anywhere that's got a shared right of way. It's called a droite de passage. Don't buy anywhere that's got that. I've read so many times of people struggling with a right of way, struggling with the neighbour not respecting the concept of the right of way. I know years ago there was on a forum somewhere to do with France, and there was somebody blogging, and his wife eventually committed suicide because she could not, because of the stress of dealing with what was happening with their right of way issue. So do not, just don't look at it. Don't think it'll bore us. We looked at this, and when our estate agent said to us about, oh, there's this problem here, there's a little problem here and that, and we went, it's okay, don't worry, we'll deal with it afterwards. Because we were used to, as part of our job, we were used to negotiating with people and talking to people and dealing with problems, and we just thought, no, don't worry, we'll deal with it afterwards. Well, we haven't. There are still issues, there are still problems. That sliver of ground at the end of the carport is still a sliver of ground. This out the back here, where the fence came down in the storm, that's still a piece of ground that is an issue, and that's 18 years later. So don't ever believe you can sort it out. It is, but I mean, I'm not saying that there aren't some people in France who will sort it out. But what I'm saying to you is, I'd err on the side of caution and imagine you'll never sort it out. That way, you won't get into the situation that we found ourselves in, that we manage really well, and we don't have all of the stress that we were having years ago, because of how we've managed it. But yeah, which is why I said in the wall video, psychological and physical boundaries are really important, and the wall provided that for us. So don't do that. Don't buy a droite passage. I've put down on a bit. I've done a list. Don't share a notaire. A lot of people say, "Oh, don't worry about it. You don't often, you always share the same notaire for the buying and the selling of the property, and that's fine." And I'm thinking, I don't think in our case it was retrospectively. Um, if we'd had a different notaire, these issues would have been picked up and resolved before. They would have been sorted before. A friend of mine who has helped us a lot with our issues with next door, who is I can't remember what she is. She's a legal thing. Sorry, mad. Helped us with the notaire at the end when we had to actually, after all the boundary issue came to a head, she helped us with a letter to send to this notaire saying that if he didn't free up the money that we were supposed to have, that we would report him, because he was holding money back that was meant to go to us, because our neighbour was still fighting. And it's like, it's their money, whether he fights or not, you don't hold on to their money. So I would recommend that you don't share a notaire. Yeah, she said no notaire in their right mind, or was it one of the gendarmes? No notaire in their right mind would have sold a property with these issues. So yeah, don't share a notaire. That way, the notaire that you have for your purchase is acting only for you and not acting for two of you. I think that's quite important. And I don't think it's very common in France. You wouldn't, in the UK, you wouldn't hear of that, would you? You'd each have a separate solicitor. But over here, it's very common to share a notaire, and I wouldn't recommend it. And I also would recommend, which is also something, this is 18 years ago, might have changed now, is that you do get a survey done on the property. We didn't, because people said, "Oh, don't bother in France." So we didn't. I don't know whether it would have made a difference to us had we, but I would get a survey as well. So don't go along with that, "Oh, we don't bother. Oh, it's okay. This is what we normally do." Do what you feel is right for you. Yeah, don't share a notaire. What have I put? Oh, there's just a few things that when you come over and you want a doctor, you can choose a doctor. You can go to your local doctor. You can go further away. We went to our local doctor, and then after about 2 years decided that she wasn't doing what we would want our doctor to do. So we moved on and found the doctor we now have. And he is further away than our local doctor, but that's fine. And we didn't have to ask her. We didn't have to do anything. We can just turn up and start seeing another doctor. So that's much easier. And for some consultations, you can refer yourself. You don't need to be referred by. I don't think you need to be. I'm not sure. Yeah, you don't need to be referred by your doctor for some consultations. I think it's probably the polite way to do it. But actually, you probably can go straight to consultants. I went straight to a rheumatologist for Mark before he had his knees done. Before we went to Canada, I just contacted there's a site called DocLib, and I went onto DocLib and looked for rheumatologists that had appointments before we went to Canada, because we wanted to get him steroid injections before we went. And it was that waiting to get an appointment with a rheumatologist was months away. And then we found this one in Poitiers who had actually got appointments for, I don't know, the following day, or, very quickly. So we referred ourselves I just made appointments. When I went for physio a few months ago, I referred myself, um, and retrospectively asked my doctor for an ordonnance, but I actually referred myself and went without any referral. So you can do that in France. What else have I got on here? Noise laws. I think I mean, it's not really high on the agenda, but there are noise laws. So on a Sunday, you um, you can't make noise until after 4 o'clock. Before 10 o'clock, was it after between 10 and 12? You can do some noisy work, not drilling, but if you've got wood to saw or a bit of garden work, you can do that between 10 and 12. Then nothing until after 4, and the same on ferié days. And you can't start making noise before 8 o'clock in the morning, and you have to stop by 8 o'clock at night. I think it's 8 o'clock at night, and you should actually not be doing stuff over the midday to 2 lunch period. So it's like, yeah, there are noise laws which are kept here in the countryside mostly. I don't know. I don't think it applies in the city because cities are noisy anyway, aren't they? I don't think it applies in the city, but yeah, noise laws in the countryside are adhered to mostly. So that's it. What have I missed? Tell me in the comments. There's loads of do's and don'ts or maybes, I think, but they're just a few that came up for me when I was thinking about it. And so yeah, let me know in the comments what you think, and I'm sure I've missed quite a bit. Bonne chance.